Today on Coffee Break Tennis, we're in Cincinnati covering the end of the big three. I've got three big headlines for you. Here's number one from Fox Sports Australia. Federer just said it without saying it. It's over, but this is why he can't say goodbye. A worldview from the folks over at Fox Australia. From Tennis World, Muller-Weisse. I don't know if I'm saying it right. The Muller-Weisse disease. That's what Rafa Nadal's problem is. It's that foot problem that he wrote about in his book all those years ago. It goes back to the year 2005. They thought he might have to retire way back then. It looks like maybe it's popping up now, and it could be even more dangerous and threatening today. And finally, this headline from Eurosport over in Europa. Tennis news, Steph Tsitsipas wants #1 ranking, but Andy Murray thinks it's going to be Danny Medvedev. But the ultimate question here at Coffee Break Tennis, who will displace Novak Djokovic? Well, put this draw on the screen. This is the Cinci draw. And believe it or not, one of these bozos is going to displace Novak Djokovic as the #1 tennis player in the world. Could it happen as soon as the US Open? Live from the scary basement in an Airbnb somewhere in Cincinnati, it's Coffee Break Tennis. Today's show, we have a lot of help. We're gonna have guests from the show. Gaines Kidd is here. You guys probably know Gainesy. Of course, Peter Tennis Freeman from Crunch Time Coaching is going to be here later on the show. Guests will go over there on the decrepit toilet to be guests. Gaines is running the audio from behind the camera. He did a good job, so he gets a Kit Kat. You want a Kit Kat or a cheese stick, Gaines?
I'll take a Kit Kat.
A Kit Kat, wise choice. Nice catch. Today on the show, there are prizes, there are treats, there are sweets, and if I do a good job, I get a beer. Gaines and Pete will get Kit Kats and cheesy sticks. Poor Pete was stranded while me and Gaines were watching the very exciting Shapovalov and Benoit pair match that lasted till 1:20 in the morning. We took the rental car. Pete was stuck here in the very scary haunted Airbnb with nothing but 20 Kit Kats to eat. That's 20 Kit Kats. All right, put that draw back up on the screen because one of these losers is going to be #1 in the world. Now, Tsitsipas wants it. Tsitsipas wants it. But if you saw the way he went down in Canada to Riley Opelka, the big man with the new forehand, if you saw the way he went down, maybe a little doubt, because then we see Danny Medvedev, who Andy Murray thinks is the most obvious pick for #1. I think he's #1. We're going to bring Pete in later to talk about the future of tennis and who he thinks is going to be #1. But if you look at the way Medvedev handled the big man Opelka and the big man Isner in Toronto, then it definitely looks pretty good. Like, well, at the very least, you could say, you know, over the years we watched the big three. Someone like an Isner can give every player problems. Top players, they give them problems. But the big three always take care of these guys. They're better at dealing with pressure. I mean, if you don't believe me that you know, good players will struggle with someone like an Isner, I mean, we've seen it over the years. We just saw Cam Norrie, who's won more matches than anyone, go down. Here's a clip from that. Cam Norrie, the most winningest player of the year. He couldn't handle the big pressure moments in that tie break, and ultimately, I think he got broken twice when Isner's breaking you. Although Isner, man, he's worked on his service return game. Maybe we'll bring in Gaines later to talk about the stupid thing he said during that match that I had to school him on. Is that all right, Gaines?
Sure.
Anyways, looking at this draw really quick, I just want to give some credit. Medvedev is the one who handled these guys like it was nothing. And it kind of reminds you of the big three. You always knew they were going to beat someone like a John Isner no matter how well he was playing that week. My pick for the future, Jannik Sinner, he also went down. I wasn't there, but here's some video that Gainesy.
Yeah.
at the match yesterday. I stayed home to take it easy while Gaines was out there sitting in the sun watching tennis all day. It's exhausting, isn't it, Gaines?
Oh, yeah.
Did you get tired sitting in the sun for 8 hours watching day matches?
Only a little bit.
Okay.
The beer helped recharge me, though.
Are we going to bring in Pete already? All right, Pete. Wait your turn over there for a second. You want a cheese stick? You're supposed to be over there. You gotta go somewhere off camera. No cheese stick for you. All right, Pete. He's on the toilet. Did he open or close the toilet?
I think he opened it.
First off, Pete, what do you think about this Airbnb we're staying in down here? I got a good deal.
All class.
All right, let's just go right into the stuff I want to ask Pete. I got this Eurosport here. Tsitsipas wants to be #1, but Andy Murray thinks it's going to be Danny Medvedev. Earlier, Pete, you said something to me about how this is kind of like, what did you say? It's kind of like terrorists vying for real estate.
That's right.
Trying to take power.
It's terrorists vying for real estate. Yeah, there's going to be no dominant big three. There's just going to be periods of dominance, very short periods of dominance. And right now, Hannibal Medvedev looks like he is going for the U.S. Open.
Now, Pete, I was telling Pete, I like Medvedev. I think he has some star power. Pete was saying it's a shame that Tsitsipas isn't winning majors, that he didn't win the French Open because he's good looking, he's got an interesting game, and if he was dominant, he would be a big star. It'd be like we never lost Federer and Nadal because we got this guy Tsitsipas right away to sell tickets. We're feeling the effect, right? You were there yesterday, Gaines. Me and Pete have been there a couple days this week. What do you think about the crowds in Cincinnati without the big three here? Do we already see what it's going to be like without them, Pete?
Yeah. The crowd's much less here. There's not as big a buzz. We're excited to be out for tennis since, now we're getting some tournaments back here in the United States. But
yeah.
It's nothing like when Fed, Nadal, even Djokovic, but especially Federer and Nadal, let's face it, they're the ones who put butts in the seats. It'd be packed if they were here. And sometimes it looks half empty.
So I said to Pete, Medvedev is an interesting guy. He's got an interesting game. We know about what happened at the U.S. Open when he gave the middle finger to the crowd and all that stuff. He says funny stuff in interviews. I think he's got enough star power or potential to sell tickets. Pete disagrees, and then he came up with the name Hannibal Medvedev. Explain that. While we're in this very scary place that looks like Medvedev would store his victims' bodies.
He fit right down here in this basement, Matt, for sure. I mean, he's got heavy creep factor. First of all, the haircut, he looks like, I don't know, Calvin from the cartoon. And
Calvin Hobbes.
Yeah, Calvin Hobbes. And then he comes out with his arms half pasted up. I don't know if that means that he just, did something. He was hanging out with Dexter before the match. I don't know what that is all about.
What do you mean half pasted? Like his sunscreen?
I guess it helps him hold I guess it helps him hold his racket somehow. But yeah, if you notice when he walks on court, his arms are half pasted up. It's really creepy.
He put some kind of like something to help him with his grip all over his arm, so the sweat won't go down his arm to the grip. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good look. And so Pete even went as far as to ask one of our campers that we had at the Cincinnati Masters Clinic. We have, how many people have we had come out? So counting both clinics, we're going to have like over 40 people come out.
Yeah, we're going to have 44 total, Matt.
44 tennis enthusiasts, totally obsessed players coming to Cincinnati to train with me and Pete. Maybe you can be here next year if you email Pete. Where can I email you, Pete, if they want to come train with us next year in Cincinnati?
crunchtimecoaching@gmail.com. Also,
crunchtimecoaching@gmail.com. My microphone's I gave him the crappiest microphone because he's on the toilet.
Be looking out for Matt's coffee break tennis camp that I'm going to get him to do. Who wants a coffee break tennis camp with Matt?
Pete's going to force me to start my own coffee break tennis camp. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing it, having a small group of people come train with me in Atlanta and see a lot of the stuff that I do. I got in good shape, Pete, so maybe they'll learn some of my secrets if they want to get in shape.
Yeah, Matt, you look fantastic.
Don't tell them all the things I've been eating and drinking since we got to Cincinnati. You want a Kit Kat, Pete?
Yeah, throw one here.
It's like right in his hand almost. All right, moving on. So one of our campers, my point was, we had a camper here, and Pete said, what do you think of Medvedev? And what did she say?
She said he's creepy, just like I said, and I didn't even ask her.
She said something specifically that he looks like he has a, what was it?
She says he has people down in his basement probably, didn't make it out alive. That's what she said, and I didn't even provoke her.
All right, moving on from that. I don't think we're having time to get gains in here. What a shame. Let's see. Federer said it without saying it. It's over. This is why he can't say goodbye. I just want to read one little line from this, and I want to get Pete's thoughts. Federer knows the odds are against him, saying that he's only giving himself a glimmer of hope to return to the tour in some shape or form. Federer said, I'm not realistic. I am realistic. Don't get me wrong. I know how difficult it is at this age right now to do another surgery and try it. But look, I want to be healthy. Federer has quietly dealt with chronic back pain and blah, blah, blah. And now suddenly he's about to have his number 4 surgery in 5 years after 2 more operations on his right knee in 2020. What do you think about Federer, Pete?
Well, we love Federer.
Yes,
and we want to see him come back.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Are you about to do the Pete sandwich?
No, go ahead.
You're doing the Pete sandwich though, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I'm doing the Pete sandwich. Tell everybody what the Pete sandwich is.
He has a technique when he teaches people that I noticed years ago. It's called the Pete sandwich. First, you show them your terrible forehand. And Pete says, I really like that your unit turn is pretty good. But here's all the things wrong with it. And then at the very end, he says something nice. So it's a nice thing, criticism, nice thing. Here we go, Pete. Give us the Pete sandwich on Federer.
Okay, well, nice thing. We want to see Federer back. I mean, he's so great for tennis.
It's the greatest.
But it's probably not going to happen. I mean, the guy's 40 years old. We know now he's going to another knee surgery. He's already said it's going to be several months before he comes back. I think best case scenario for everybody is not to hope he comes back and wins another Grand Slam. I mean, we want that to happen, but I think best case scenario for Fed is he can come back and give us a small goodbye tour, which he said he didn't want. But I think now that the end is near, he kind of goes, man, I kind of do want to say goodbye on the court, on my terms. That would be the best case scenario, and I would love to see it.
So best case scenario, we see something like Federer at Wimbledon, playing, let's say his ranking drops, he's playing Djokovic in the quarterfinals, and they have another competitive 4-set match.
I think that's wishful thinking. I think best case scenario is he gets into Wimbledon, he faces Kyrgios who tanks, and he wins the match, and then he loses the second round. That's like my best hope.
And Agassi, his last run, had a great match with Marcos Baghdatis. This was 2007. Or 2006, I think. 2006. Then he had before that a match with Andre Pavel. Baghdatis was top 10 back then, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes down to Benjamin Becker. Is that what you're saying is going to happen to Federer? Some guy that no one's ever heard of?
Yeah, I mean, something like that would be nice. I mean, we don't want to see him lose like somebody like Benjamin Becker, but I mean, I would love to see him make a mini run. Maybe he could win a smaller tournament or two. That would be great. But I don't have big hopes for him winning another major. I don't think it's going to be the top 3 competing for Grand Slams anymore, sad to say.
Okay, so we got Medvedev on Roger Federer. I like what Medvedev said because he's brutally honest. That's why I love Medvedev. I think he's got some potential. Pete, also I want to ask you in a second, why do you think Medvedev's only going to be a temporary number 1? But first, this is what Medvedev said when they asked him about Federer's injury. He said, look, I don't know exactly what his problem with the knee is. I'm not a doctor, but I mean, age takes over. Hopefully we see him back on the tour. I think that's what he wants. That's what everybody else wants. Of course, even if he's going to be back on tour, we are going to try to beat him every time we play him, even if he is Roger. I know we are competitors on court, but the only thing I can wish him right now, because I saw it before my match, is health, speedy recovery, seeing him back on tour, because we never know what's going to happen next. So Medvedev says, yeah, we all wish for the best for Federer, but if he comes out here with some surgically repaired, messed up knee, we're going to blow him off the court every time. What do you think of Medvedev's comment there, Pete?
Well, he's on the tour. He's trying to, be one of the next guys to take over. I think that's, like you said, he's honest. He wishes him well, but he's got to beat him. He's crossing the net, and I think it's going to be tough for Federer at age 40 to win big matches consistently.
All right, moving on to Rafa. This is not something anyone expected. There are rumors going around saying that, I guess it's not really a rumor, people pretty much know for sure. Obviously in Rafa's loss to Djokovic at the French Open, that's when he got hurt. I've heard that he went up for an overhead or something in that 3rd set tiebreak and landed funny on his foot, but it turns out he aggravated that issue he had back in 2005. So this is from an article, and I think this is a Tennis World or one of those. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is a quote from Rafa recently that they took from some other Spanish publication. It is later discovered that Rafa had a relapse of the foot problem that blocked him in Paris and now has forced him to forfeit at the Masters 1000s in Toronto and Cincinnati. The recovery times for Rafa are not known exactly at this point, but his presence at the U.S. Open appears to be in doubt. Pete, real quick, do you think Rafa plays the U.S. Open this year?
No.
Okay, count me down with Gaines. What do you think? Rafa, say it loud.
No.
No, okay. Nadal, after the Washington knockout, confirmed that this stop concerns the same injury that he had in 2005 that brought him at that time. Remember, we're talking 2005, one step away from retirement. He wrote about it in his book. This is the Muller-Weisse syndrome, or Weiss, however you say it, German or American style. It's a rare disease that brought Rafa great difficulties. Back in 2005, Rafa imposed on himself on the ATP Tour, winning 11 titles as a teenager. As the Punto de Break Madrid newspaper underlines, that year in Madrid he encountered a rather serious problem that tennis players at the time commented as follows. The day after becoming champion in Madrid, I felt like I was lame, and after careful analysis, they told me I had a serious problem at the scaphoid. Many doctors could not find solutions, and in the end they diagnosed him with this disease. To be precise, the Muller-Weisse disease is a degenerative disease that represents a dysplasia of the scaphoid, a deformation of one of the bones located in the central part of the foot. It's also, this goes down, Pete, as one of the this was noted on the World Day of Rare Diseases. It's an extremely rare disease that Rafa is unlucky to have. Is it possible that we're going to see Roger and Rafa both have to retire pretty soon, Pete?
I give Rafa more of a chance, but you know, this has been with him for a long, long time.
Yeah, 16 years.
Yeah, they're at an age that you just don't know. You got to take every time you see him on the court. You got to appreciate what you're seeing, and you never know.
So, are you sad about that, Pete?
I am, of course.
All right. Well, this is the part where I look at the draw and we start talking about who do we think's going to. I think whoever wins Cincinnati is going to look pretty good at the U.S. Open, and whoever wins the U.S. Open is going to be in great position to take that #1 spot and start changing the way we look at tennis. So in the top half of the draw, that's Medvedev's quarter on top. He's got Grigor Dimitrov up next. You think straight sets win for Medvedev, Pete?
Well, since he's already up 6-3 and destroying them, yeah, I'm picking him.
Oh, you got the live score over there?
Well, I looked at it 10 minutes ago.
Okay, so he's already winning that. Carreno Busta and Hubi Hurkacz will play. Winner gets Medvedev. I think he's going to the semifinals, which we will see on Saturday. You excited, Pete? Did you straighten out the situation with the tickets?
I'm still working on that. But, yeah, I think Medvedev is looking the strongest out of everybody right now. He's really starting to crush people.
He will have to play in the semifinals either John Isner, Benoit Paire, who me and Gaines are in love with after we spent all night long. I was sitting next to his girlfriend, too. We'll have to put up a couple clips of that. Rublev is in there, Monfils and John Isner. Do you think Benoit Paire has any chance to take out the super hot John Isner, who's been on fire this summer, Pete?
Yeah, I think Paire does. He says he's motivated. He says he's feeling good. I think Isner, it's like roulette. You know, he can beat anybody and anybody can beat him.
Benoit's back. This is what Benoit says. I heard a lot that I was no longer a tennis player, said Benoit Paire. Paire this, paire that. Now that tennis is back to normal, I managed to beat a top 10. What do you think of that, Pete?
I like it. I like to see Paire doing well.
I feel confident. I'm a confident player right now. I feel like I'm able to compete with anyone. I feel like I'm becoming a really big threat. Those are definitely super positive things for me, Benoit Paire. Is he a big threat?
No.
Okay. Moving on. So Medvedev comes out of that section and not Benoit Paire. Rublev, any chance to beat Medvedev? Maybe historically, Medvedev beats Rublev every time they play. I don't know if Rublev has one win over him, to be honest.
I think Medvedev is starting to become Djokovic-like. He has small spurts where he becomes like Djokovic. He looks unbeatable. He seems like he's on one of those runs. The difference between him and Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, is they're short-lived. He looks unbeatable. Everybody thinks about to take over, and then he goes into hibernation. So that's why I said he'll have a short dominance.
Also, the big serve.
Yeah.
Below that half, we got Casper Ruud, who threw a bagel on Riley Opelka. I didn't see that match. Comment below if you watched that match. How did Riley Opelka not hold serve one time against Casper Ruud boy? Diego Schwartzman and Ruud, games you just saw Shorty D yesterday. How are you feeling about his chances to beat Casper Ruud boy? Kind of similar in some ways.
His shots were like looking really clean. He was taking it super early, and he was just in the zone. You could tell. Like, I mean, I'm kind of shocked that TFO was able to come back on him like he did, because once it was the middle of that second set, I thought, this is over.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've seen some comebacks here. Like, I think what was it? I saw two guys. Oh, Berrettini and Felix Auger are going to play below that. We got Guido Pella and Sasha Zverev. Okay, Casper Ruud, Schwartzman, Pella, or Zverev. Who comes through there, Pete?
Zverev is playing very, very good. He's been one of the most consistent players now since the U.S. Open of last year.
Yeah, and you give him a shot at winning this year. There's no Dominic Thiem. We don't know what's up with Djokovic.
He's right at the top of the list. If there's no Fed, Nadal, Joker.
So it's looking like the top half, we're going to get something like Rublev and Medvedev semifinal, or Isner and Medvedev. Also, Casper Ruud, Schwartzman, Pella, Zverev comes through there. Bottom quarter, Berrettini, Felix Auger, Sonego, and Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas looked very good against Korda last night, I thought. There was a moment, where it was a tie-break. I think it was 4-all in the tie-break, and Tsitsipas had Korda came to net on a good, decent approach up the line, backhand up the line approach. That's the way to go, right, Pete? You like to approach up the line, cover the line.
Yes, I do.
So Tsitsipas comes up with the forehand, like, you see Djokovic over the years and Rafa, so many, Federer to come up with a shot. That cross-court pass where you have very little angle to play with and not send it wide, and that little space you squeeze it into. Yep. That by design, when you cover the line, you're trying to give that to him because it's such a hard shot to hit. Tsitsipas knocks it down for the mini break, wins the tie-break set, wins the second set pretty easy, 6-3. And the commentators said, amazing. That shot that Tsitsipas hit is amazing. When I was in Miami with my mom, who, let's face it, wouldn't go to a tennis tournament if it wasn't for me, she was excited to go because of me, and we watched Federer play. The one thing I noticed my mom kept saying over and over is, he's amazing. Wow, he's just amazing. That Roger Federer, he sure is amazing. And I realized at that moment, people want to see someone that they think is amazing. That's really what sells tickets in all sports, like the Tom Brady effect. People want to come see someone amazing. Tsitsipas has that. Does anyone else to you make you say, wow, he's amazing, Pete? Anyone out there?
No. He's the one guy who I really hope can take over, get some kind of dominance going, because I think he is the star that's left. His game is fun to watch, and he's interesting when you hear him in interviews. He's the guy who I would hope would start to pick up the mantle.
Let's hope, Pete. Let's freaking hope. All right, so we're looking at Tsitsipas, Zverev semifinal. Pretty exciting stuff there. Medvedev, Rublev. Who wins Tsitsipas? Let's say it's Tsitsipas and Medvedev, or Zverev and Medvedev. Who do you think wins it in the final here in Cinci?
I think Medvedev's going to come through and win the whole thing.
And why do you like temporarily Medvedev's game over Tsitsipas? What is it about Medvedev where you think he gets number one? And Andy Murray's wiggy, Pete. You're not alone. You got some good company there.
Because he's starting to play all kinds of styles. He's crushing baseliners. He's played Opelka, and I even think Isner.
Yeah, we were at the Springhouse with our camp on Friday night last week. That was when that match was, and 6-2, 6-2. Isner could barely hold serve against Medvedev.
Yeah, so all styles are coming against him, and he just seems to have the answer for everyone. And like I said, he kind of reminds me of Djokovic when he gets hot. He goes into lockdown mode. He looks unbeatable. That's what's starting to happen.
Well, if Pete is right, and I agree with him, if Medvedev wins Cincinnati, he's going to be less than 500 points away from Djokovic, world number one. Djokovic is going to drop all 1,000 points because he chose to play the Olympics. Pete was probably the loudest critic that I know who was saying, Djokovic, what are you thinking about? Olympic gold is meaningless. You have the Grand Slam on the line. But here was a great comment from our last video. Did Pete just flush the toilet?
That's what's going to happen to Djokovic's golden slam. Down the toilet.
The whole slam, not just the goal. You're saying no U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah, the Grand Slam. He blew it.
All right, we're giving a flush to the Grand Slam. Milan Jesovic, he commented on the last video, Matt, you were right for jeopardizing or criticizing the calendar slam attempt. There was a poll in Serbia on the mainstream media news outlet in Serbia. Question, should Novak participate in the Olympics this year, playing for Serbia? How many do you think said no, Pete?
I don't know. How many said no, Matt?
85% of Serbians said, please don't play the Olympics, Novak. Focus on the Grand Slam, because it's so much more important. They said he should rest after such an exhausting first half of the season to get ready for the US Open. For Novak, patriotism is much bigger than that, and he decided that he wanted to go through it, and he had the full support from the majority to skip it and rest. So I admire that Djokovic did it, but Pete, you're saying bozo move?
Complete bozo move. He is the Larry David of tennis. If you've ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, the guy tries to do the right thing. It always turns out wrong. He was trying to be a patriot. All anybody's going to remember about the Golden Slam run going to the Olympics is that he threw his racket and disgraced himself.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you there. I thought Milan was right. Let's see. Andy Murray said something, and I think he was just talking about his own game, trying to get back into match form, but it made me think about like the difference with Tsitsipas and some other guys. And then Sinner said something I'm going to read after that, but I love it. The last couple things here. Andy Murray, when you're under pressure in big matches, and you haven't been in those situations very much, you've got split seconds to make choices and decisions. The more matches that you play, it just becomes sort of second nature. You know what to do in those moments. I think it's something like that in the last few years that Novak, for example, Novak Djokovic has just been incredible at. He just makes great decisions under pressure. I feel like it's something that the top players tend to do in important moments. I think that comes through confidence of winning matches consistently and getting to compete. Pete, you've played at a high level in the juniors. You played the best players in the country in juniors. What do you think about what Andy Murray's saying about these split-second decisions, and how do you get good at that? Because where I'm going with this is I don't think Tsitsipas is as good at that as a Medvedev, let's say. Or maybe someone, as you said, we don't know who the dominant player coming up it is, but it's none of this crop.
It's 100% true. And even, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. When Tsitsipas was playing the most matches, playing tournament after tournament, he had some tough losses, but then he started to win big matches, started to win tournaments. There's nothing like match toughness. When you're healthy and can play tournament after tournament, that's your best chance to win.
And like the final of the French Open with Djokovic, 2 sets up. Is that not making incredible decisions in split-second moments, or is that just that's just Novak Djokovic and what he can do to anyone? It doesn't matter if you're the next #1 Tsitsipas or something like that.
Well, I think that was the first time he was there. So Tsitsipas got used to winning big matches, winning tournaments, but obviously once you're first Grand Slam and you're playing against one of the greatest ever, that's a situation that the first time you're there, you can't really prepare for that.
All right, so Pete, you've said it. You think Medvedev's going to have a temporary dominance maybe, or at least he'll be #1 for some time. But you don't think it's going to be Zverev or Medvedev or even Tsitsipas that'll be our dominant tennis player? I mean, do you think it's just we're not going to see anything like the big three for a long time, or do you think someone is coming? And what do you think about my guy, Jannik Sinner? And then I'll read. Should I tell you what Isner said about Jannik Sinner after he won yesterday? Games was there.
Yeah, read it. What did he say?
He said, that's a good I don't know what the question was originally, but Sinner starts answering. Isner starts answering. That's a good question, because I was just telling my coach about 30 minutes ago that Jannik Sinner has everything. He has every tool that you need to do amazing things in this game. And he's got a great head on top of his shoulders. He's icy out there. He's the Iceman, Pete. He used to ski, so that works. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too down. He keeps his head throughout the whole match. That is something pretty special for someone who just turned 20 years old, and he hasn't even come close to reaching his peak. John Isner likes my guy Sinner. What do you think, Pete?
I like Sinner overall. I'm rooting for him. I think he's getting a little bit too much credit. We're always talking about how clutch he is, what a great head he's got. He's kind of like Rafa, though he doesn't have any numbers close to Rafa at Rafa's when Rafa was 20. So I think he's almost getting a little bit too much respect without not enough results to back it up. I don't think he's as clutch as everybody says he is.
And of course, we haven't seen his sophomore slump yet. I mean, this is his second year, but this really feels like his first full year on the tour. Because that's it. When you say, well, last year doesn't really count, it's kind of sucks for Sinner that he comes up. His second year is COVID year, and he doesn't even play. But 2019, I mean, he barely really played on tour. 2020 would have been his first real season. So I guess this is his first season. Is there a chance that you get that sophomore slump where people kind of figure you out in 2022 and maybe Sinner goes down?
No, I think he'll continue to get better. But will he be somebody who's going to replace the great ones? I think that's too early to tell, but I think he's going to have a solid career. Every year he should be in the top 10 within 2 years. He should just be always in the top 10, and he should win some majors.
All right. Well, and finally, Shapovalov, me and Gaines got to see him play until after 1 in the morning. It was an exciting match. What we were just talking about with Andy Murray, is there anyone worse, Pete, than Denis Shapovalov, El Chapo, the biggest crybaby on tour? Gaines, was he kind of whiny? We were sitting. Pete, did you just flush Chapo?
I did flush Chapo.
You get a cheese stick for that. Why? Do you agree with me when I say that these split-second decisions that you have to make in clutch moments, and Benoit Paire, I mean, he's not necessarily the greatest at that either. Let me bring up some stats really quick. What do you think about his decision-making in crucial moments, Pete, while I bring up some stats on what happened in that match?
Shapovalov, as well, again, match toughness, been getting better. I'm going to give him a pass on this. He lost a very tough, close match.
And I'm flashing up on screen pictures of me and Gaines in the crowd.
Yeah.
Here's a little video of me videoing Benoit Paire freaking out. I'll talk about that in a second.
I'm just saying, if you look at his results over the last 6 months, it's definitely getting better if you like Shapovalov. He's did well on the clay, did well on grass. When you lose 7-5 in the third, it's not something that you go, oh, what's wrong with the guy? He played a tough match. This fell short. If you're a Shapovalov fan, you are getting excited. He's starting to play better.
All right, so it was a 2-hour and 14-minute match that me and Gaines sat and watched the entire match. Started around 11 and finished after 1.
You are videoing him up.
Shapovalov loses 6-3 in the first set, wins 6-4 in the second. Benoit Paire kind of, lost focus for a little bit, I thought, in that second set. It was still decent. And then the third set, Chapo was up break like 3 different times. He was up 2-0 with looking like a chance, and then Paire came up with some clutch serves. Listen to this, Shapovalov won more points than Benoit Paire overall in the match. Chapo hit more winners, 31 winners to 26, and he had 44, is Pete eating the freaking cheese stick on the toilet? Amazing. Chapo had 44 unforced errors, 20 coming off the forehand, 15 off the backhand, and 9 double faults from El Chapo. I mean, Benoit Paire had 34 unforced errors, but Chapo had 44. Going further in stats, Chapo had, on average, hitting faster first serves, 10 mile an hour on average faster second serves than Benoit Paire. Got more serves back in play, 76% return, Paire getting less at 72. And on top of all that, he was winning way more, like 23% more on second serve, getting more first serves in, than just a little below Paire win on first serve. I mean, you were there, Gaines. Why did Chapo lose? Pete, you weren't there. Let's hear what Gaines says first, and I want to just hear why Pete thinks Chapo lost.
From what I saw, he just made too many unforced errors, especially with his backhand to the net. I mean, you would think that with Chapo, his strength is that amazing one-hand backhand, and he hit some great one-handers.
He was in the air flying, hitting backhands like 5 times. A couple of them were winners. Few of them were not, though. So you think it was he's just loose. I thought, though, it was always because he won more points. He had more unforced errors, but he wins more points overall. What do you think, Pete? You didn't even see the match. How did someone like Benoit Paire, who's not known for being mentally tough at all, he's usually the guy that loses this way. How did Chapo lose to Benoit Paire when he's been in the season of tanking matches?
Well, I have noticed that Shapovalov has been in a lot of big matches lately. Overall, I think he's doing better, like I said, but his downfall is he'll play great until it's a big point, and then that's where you're going to see him spray a double fault, spray a backhand, spray a forehand. That's what's holding him back from getting to the level he wants to be at.
Too many double faults, too.
Yeah, a lot of double faults. I mean, it seemed like every time he was up a break in that third set, he would throw in at least 1 double fault in the very next service game. You can't consolidate like that. I also noticed they would get in these really important rallies. They would get some long, good rallies. It was a great match. And usually it was at a very important time in the match. and it seemed like Shapovalov would not make Benoit Paire hit a forehand. I mean, Pete, you saw me playing footage watching that I took from the match. What do you think of Benoit Paire's forehand? I mean, everyone knows it's his weaker shot. He's a better backhand, but why do you think the forehand's not as good on Benoit Paire?
It's one of the weaker forehands on the tour technically. Like if you look at all the pros playing today, their forehands look very similar, very fluid, you know, pretty much no flaws in it. He's got an awkward looking forehand. So yeah, you should go with that forehand on big points.
At big points, every time I was thinking, and this is like a coaching issue, when you say, like, Mikhail Yuzny was there, I'll put up some footage that I took while I was there. You see Yuzny's there in the box. This lovely lady sitting there, obviously Benoit Paire's girlfriend, no coach for Benoit Paire. It's like a coaching problem, though, when you say Pete with like Yuzny, because every big point it seemed like Benoit Paire was hitting a ton of backhands, and a lot of times you'd even see Chapo come to net and Benoit Paire just getting that backhand really low, giving him very awkward volleys to deal with. And the main thing was just like no forehands being hit in the big moments. Coaching issue or a Chapo issue?
I think it's a habit issue. I mean, you know, you go to what you're comfortable with. Sometimes you should be thinking out there, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, even if coaches are telling you to do one thing, you do what's comfortable. So
yeah, I didn't think that Chapo's a lefty. So
yeah.
When in doubt, cross-court forehand to the backhand of a righty.
Yep.
Okay. All right, hit the music. We're going to get out of here. Just want to show, this was Benoit Paire going crazy in the match. This is the most entertaining thing I've seen the whole time I've been here. Games, you saw more matches than me. Most incredible match yet so far?
By far.
Putain de merde! Moi j'ai 2 mots, j'ai pris un point de pénalité. Et l'autre il a envoyé 10 fois sa raquette dans les tribunes, il a rien fait. Toujours pareil. Toujours pareil.
So Benoit Paire was very mad. He had a good reason. You see him yelling here. You see him mimicking like he's throwing his racket into the wall. And this was because Chapo threw his racket really hard, no warning. Then he yells the F word in Russian, because I know a little bit of Russian, and Gaines did too, surprisingly. No warning there. Benoit Paire, on the other hand, he hits a ball up. It doesn't leave the stadium. It comes back like a whole minute later, hit it pretty high. And then after that, Benoit Paire says the French word for the S word, merde, something like that. But I'll play the clip for you. And then he gets a point penalty. So he was getting very, very frustrated. And then after that, Shapovalov just keeps letting him back in over and over and over again with double faults, bonehead decisions, unforced errors all over the place. Final verdict on Chapo. Do you still think he's got a bright future, Pete? Or do you think he's a flash in the pan, even though he's top 10 now? He's 10 in the world.
I see him being a top 10, top 20 player. Maybe he wins a Grand Slam, maybe, 1 or 2, but he's certainly not the next guy.
And he's not your favorite for winning a major anytime soon?
No.
All right. Thanks for joining us here at Coffee Break Tennis today. We will be back later this week, maybe if there's some time. Maybe we'll do it in a nicer part of our Airbnb house, but I wanted to come down here. Any last thoughts from Gaines or Pete? See ya!